5 years have passed since humanity learned about the existence of giant godlike monsters known as Titans. Paleobiologist Emma works for an organization known as Monarch to research the Titans and develop her invention called Orca, which is a sonar capable of emitting frequencies only Titans can hear. She lost her son during the last monster attack and the grief destroyed her marriage, so now she's the sole caretaker of her daughter Madison. One morning, the excavation site in China where they've been living begins to shake. Madison and Emma rush to the lab and watch in awe how a giant glowing egg gives birth to Mothra, a moth-like titan. The scientists activate a containment field to keep her caught, but the system begins failing, apparently because someone hacked them. The guards panic at the sight of the monster breaking free and fire at Mothra, who immediately panics and begins attacking everyone in her path. Emma decides to take a risk and enter the enclosure to use Orca, and in a few seconds, the sonar frequency is calming Mothra down. An excited Emma follows her mother and gets to gently touch Mothra's face. The moment is suddenly interrupted when an eco-terrorist group led by former Colonel Jonah break into the facility with a huge explosion and begin killing the entire team, only leaving Emma and Madison alive. Meanwhile, Monarch's top scientist Dr. Serizawa and his assistants are attending a Senate hearing to try to convince the world leaders that the Titans are essential to the maintenance of Earth's ecosphere and that some of them are capable of peacefully coexisting with humans. However, most of the leaders are still set on killing the Titans. When Serizawa gets a message informing him about the incident in China, the trio leaves without finishing their arguments. Moments later, they're meeting with Emma's ex-husband Mark to ask for his help. Mark is hesitant to rejoin Monarch because he quit after they failed to protect his son during the last attack, but he accepts when he learns that Jonah kidnapped Emma and Madison and that he'll use Orca, which Mark helped develop for evil purposes. The team takes Mark to their underwater base where they study and keep track of Godzilla, the king of the Titans. They learn that Mothra managed to escape Jonah's men and she has cocooned herself underneath a waterfall miles away from the site. Their intel suggests Jonah wants to capture Mothra, but Mark points out it's just a decoy. Now they have Orca, they can release all the monsters, and that's why they should kill them first, but Serizawa still refuses. Meanwhile, Emma and Madison are taken to another Monarch base in Antarctica, where Jonah's men kill all the employees in order to gain access to the Titan Ghidorah, also known as Monster Zero, who is frozen in ice. Jonah orders his men to start drilling into the ice and fill the hole with explosives while Emma gets Orca ready. Back to the underwater base, the group begins feeling the whole structure shaking, which hasn't happened since the last attack. The team discovers their drones are being destroyed and that a Titan is coming closer, but Mark advises them to put down their weapons because it'll only make matters worse. They open the shields to prove they aren't a threat and everyone is surprised to see Godzilla just outside their window. The Titan is putting up a light show as some kind of intimidation display, and after giving the building one big shake, he leaves. Mark thinks Godzilla feels threatened by something and checks the Titan's territorial routes, coming to the conclusion Godzilla is going to Antarctica. The team takes off while they explain to Mark that Ghidorah used to be a rival alpha to Godzilla and they battled for dominance over the other Titans. When they make it to the frozen base, the Monarch soldiers quickly make it inside, only to be ambushed by Jonah's men. A firefight immediately ensues and when Mark sees his family on the video feed, he decides to join the battle too. A Monarch sniper manages to kill the guy with the detonator, which falls to the ground, while Mark meets with his family, asking them to come with him. However, Emma surprises him by picking up the detonator and activating the explosives, which immediately causes the structure to start to crumble down. As Ghidorah begins shaking inside the ice, the humans run away, and Emma joins Jonah in a jet to regain access to Orca. While the base sinks into the frozen ground, Emma activates the sonar and finally wakes up Ghidorah, who immediately begins attacking all the people surrounding him. The soldiers try to retaliate with their weapons, but bullets do nothing and Ghidorah just breathes a beam of bioelectricity at them. The Monarch team tries to leave in their jet, but Ghidorah's electric attack has caused all the electronic equipment to stop working and now they're stuck on the ground. Desperate to help her dad, Madison takes the Orca from Emma and changes the frequency to get Ghidorah's attention. When the Titan turns to them, Emma takes Orca back and turns it off, so now Ghidorah goes back to attack the Monarch vehicle. After a few hits, the team thinks they're hopeless, but at that moment Godzilla erupts from the ice and begins fighting Ghidorah. At first Godzilla clearly has the upper hand and lands an electric beam of his own, but Ghidorah soon overpowers him and knocks Godzilla into the crater left by the explosion. Then Ghidorah attacks Monarch again and eats Serizawa's assistant, but at that moment the Monarch jet arrives and bombards the Titan with missiles. A stray missile explodes near Mark and knocks him out while Ghidorah flies away before Godzilla can retaliate. Sometime later, once Mark is feeling better he regroups with the others and analyzes the information to learn Jonah's next target is a base in Mexico. Suddenly they're contacted by Emma, who reveals she had been working with Jonah all along because she wants to free all the Titans to restore balance to the world. Humans are damaging the planet and will soon destroy it, but research has indicated that the areas that the Tians attacked last time are regenerating, meaning the monsters can act as antibodies for the planet. The Monarch team calls her out because her plan will cause millions of deaths around the globe, but Emma just hangs up on them. Then Monarch discovers that Jonah's team has shut down the containment system, so they begin working on evacuating people at the town near the Mexican base. Meanwhile, Jonah asks Emma to use Orca to awaken the Titan in Mexico remotely in the town, and this time Madison tries to stop her because she didn't like the plan either. Emma ignores her and activates the sonar anyway, sending the signals through the speakers in town. Soon the Mexican base explodes and Titan Rodan emerges from a volcano that immediately erupts. Everyone in town runs away in panic while Monarch sends their jets to get Rodan's attention, but the Titan responds by flying above the town and wreaking havoc everywhere before attacking the jets. One by one each pilot falls dead to Rodan's fury, and when it's about to hit the jet, Ghidorah shows up. Both monsters clash in a vicious fight in the sky, and after exchanging a few hits, Ghidorah overpowers Rodan and sends it to the bottom of the ocean. Meanwhile, the jet's hangar doors get hammed, so Mark risks getting closer to open it manually and rescue one of their jets, which loses control in the way and crashes right into the hangar. At that moment the team gets a call from Admiral Stenz asking them to fly away because the army has launched a weapon known as the Oxygen Destroyer to try to kill the Titans, ignoring the fact Serizawa is against it. With Rodan gone, Ghidorah turns his attention to the jet, but before it can attack, Godzilla shows up and pushes Ghidorah into the water. Now that Ghidorah can't fly, Godzilla gains the upper hand and rips off one of the Titans' heads. Suddenly the Oxygen Destroyer strikes, killing all marine life within a 2-mile radius. Godzilla's vitals flatline and Monarch assumes he's dead, but Ghidorah emerges from the ocean completely unharmed. Then he lands on the volcano and regenerates his missing head. With Godzilla gone, Ghidorah takes the role of the reigning Alpha Titan and utters a piercing shriek that awakes all the dormant Titans all over the world. Destruction and chaos take over each location, not to mention the triggering of natural disasters like earthquakes and tsunamis. At the waterfall, Mothra's cocoon begins glowing and soon she emerges in a mighty new form with beautiful wings. Seeing all the destruction caused by her plan makes Emma have regrets, especially when Madison calls her a monster and points out this isn't what her brother would have wanted. The Monarch team analyzes Ghidorah's unnatural characteristics and by researching some old myths, they realize Ghidorah is actually an alien and therefore an invasive species rather than an enforcer of the natural order. The purpose of Ghidorah's destruction may be to xenoform the planet to suit his own tastes. Moments later the team meets with Stenz and his army to explain that stopping Ghidorah will stop all the other monsters as well, but no Titan is powerful enough for the job other than Godzilla. Meanwhile, Emma has also reached the same conclusions and tells Jonah she wanted cohabitation, not extinction. She wants to use Orca and amplify it through a stadium to disrupt Ghidorah's control over the Titans, but Jonah refuses because he thinks the world belongs to the monsters. This whole conversation is heard through the comms by Madison, who decides to take the matter in her own hands. She steals Orca and goes to Boston, which is already being evacuated by the military. At the Monarch base, Mark intends to leave to find his daughter on his own, but at that moment a bright light appears in the sky. It's Mothra, who turns out to be the queen to Godzilla's king. She keeps singing a song to get in contact with Godzilla, who is actually alive and recovering underwater. Mark points out Mothra will need help reviving him, so they send out a submarine to follow her, only to get caught in a vortex that sucks them into the hollow earth tunnels. They send out a bunch of drones and discover the ancient ruins of a civilization whose hieroglyphs indicate that they peacefully coexisted with Godzilla and other Titans millennia ago. Godzilla is located resting in his lair, which consists of a volcanic chamber that has an air pocket, feeding him energy to recharge him. This process could take literally years, so they have to detonate a nuke to accelerate the process. Unfortunately, the submarine's weapon system is offline, meaning someone will have to manually place and detonate the warhead next to Godzilla. Serizawa volunteers to do it and gives Mark his notebook before he says his final goodbyes to his team. Meanwhile, all 4 branches of the military set out to attack Ghidorah, who is in the process of completely destroying Washington, D.C. with the help of a returning Rodan. At that moment, Madison makes her way inside the stadium's press box and uses the Orca to broadcast the frequency through the speakers, causing all the Titans excluding Ghidorah to suddenly cease their rampage and become docile, but this also attracts all of them to her location. In the ocean, Serizawa boards a miniature submarine and gets inside the air pocket, where he leaves the warhead before approaching Godzilla. The Titan opens his eyes but doesn't attack, and Serizawa touches his face to say goodbye to his old friend. The warhead then detonates, destroying the entire sunken city, killing Serizawa, and sending the submarine back to the surface. Seconds later, Godzilla emerges from the ocean completely healed and shoots out a blast, ready to fight for his place as the Titan's alpha. He takes a moment to look at the team and decides they're allies before he leaves to find Ghidorah. This makes Mark realize that Emma combined the bioacoustics of Godzilla and humans to create the Orca signal, so the monsters think humans are predators too. They decide to follow Godzilla and join the fight. At Jonah's base, Emma tries to leave to find Madison as well, and when the soldiers try to stop her, Emma points her gun at Jonah. Since the plan is already going well, Jonah decides to let her go. In Boston, Ghidorah's arrival causes a hurricane that sweeps the whole city. The Titan begins attacking the stadium with energy beams and hits of his claws, so Madison grabs Orca and begins running through the corridors, dodging the beams and the debris until she makes it outside. She throws Orca away and Ghidorah crushes it with a paw before turning to Madison, but before he can kill her, Godzilla shows up and knocks Ghidorah down. A new battle between both beasts begins, this time with the military providing cover fire to distract Ghidorah and make him more vulnerable. The clash of the titans triggers something in the sensors, and the team discovers the warhead's radiation overcharged Godzilla. It makes him stronger, but also he'll overload in about 12 minutes, which will cause a thermonuclear explosion. They quickly land the jet and go out looking for Madison, only to find the orca first. Ghidorah manages to push Godzilla to the ground, but Godzilla retaliates with an energy beam, and at that moment Mothra shows up and uses her silk to glue Ghidorah's heads to the side of a tower. This gives Godzilla the chance to tackle Ghidorah, only for Rodan to show up and fight Mothra too, starting a fire in the city with its flame breath. While the beasts fight around them, Emma also arrives and picks up Mark and the soldiers in a jeep as they go looking for Madison, who is running in fear to hide in her old family home, which is located right under the beasts' falling bodies. Ghidorah finds the power grid and absorbs the electricity supply, enabling him to launch arcs of lightning from his wings that hit Godzilla, weakening him greatly and forcing the military jets to retreat. Rodan corners Mothra against a building, and Mothra takes the chance to use her stinger to stab Rodan, hurting it so badly that it falls to the ground and can't get up. When Mark and Emma make it to their old house, they're devastated to find it in ruins. They desperately begin looking for Madison through the rubble and eventually find her unconscious inside a bathtub, which saved her from the falling debris. Madison quickly wakes up and reunites with her family as they watch how Ghidorah grabs a weak Godzilla and takes him high in the sky before releasing him, causing Godzilla to plummet through thousands of feet and crash to the ground. Ghidorah prepares a beam to kill Godzilla, but at that moment Mothra puts herself between Godzilla and the attack, which instantly vaporizes her. Mothra's ashes rain down on Godzilla, transferring her energy to both heal him and block the overload. While Godzilla roars in grief for his companion, Ghidorah lifts him, ready for the final kill. However, Mark and Emma manage to activate Orca again and the frequency gets Ghidorah's attention, making him drop Godzilla and go after them instead. The Monarch jet comes to pick the family up, but Emma decides to stay behind with the Orca to keep Ghidorah's attention on her instead of chasing the team. Madison cries out as Emma drives away with the Orca, guiding Ghidorah through the ruins of the city until the Titan hits the vehicle with his energy beams. Emma rolls out of the car but isn't scared of Ghidorah when he approaches because at that moment, Godzilla shows up glowing red thanks to the mix of radiation and Mothra's ashes. This new form makes him immune to Ghidorah's beams, and it allows him to shoot thermonuclear blasts that incinerate Ghidorah's wings and 2 of his heads, but also Emma's body. When Ghidorah falls, Godzilla steps on his chest and the stomp creates a huge explosion that consumes the entire city. Once the dust clears, Godzilla emerges back in his normal form with Ghidorah's last head in his mouth. After lots of struggle, Godzilla disintegrates the head with a beam, giving him victory and the title of Alpha. Suddenly all the other Titans show up and kneel for Godzilla, accepting him as their leader. Rodan does try to look tough, but Godzilla makes it submit with just one look before roaring to declare himself king again. Sometime later, the Titans behave benevolently under Godzilla's reign and return to their nests to help rebuild the world's ecosystems. Meanwhile, Jonah and his men enter a secret warehouse in Isla de Mara, where fishermen have found Ghidorah's leftover severed head. Jonah declares that he and his men should take it. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.